And this place to...
Who is really leading the world of tennis in this unexpected transition? We often talk about Carlos Alcaraz, the young talent dominating the ATP rankings with overwhelming form. However, the ATP Finals final produced a different result, pointing directly to Jannik Sinner as the best player on the planet right now. One possesses the prestigious US Open title, the other successfully defended the crown at the year's most brutal tournament without dropping a single set. Amidst doubts, persistent injuries, and pressure from his own homeland. For middle-aged spectators who witnessed the golden era of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, this was not just a match. This was the real test to see who has the strength to dominate world tennis, inherit the great legacy, and become the new icon at the center of men's tennis. So, who is the most deserving? What happened in Turin provided the most convincing, clearest answer ever. Turin 2025, the night tennis crowned a new king. Jannik Sinner stepped onto the court for the ATP Finals 2025 final with a level of focus visible to the entire arena from his first steps. This was the final and most crucial match of the season, and the way both players advanced made it clear what they were carrying. For Sinner, it was a chance to affirm his dominance on the indoor surface he has mastered for 2 consecutive years. For Alcaraz, it was an opportunity to prove why he had officially become the world #1 just before the final. From the very first games, fans felt this would not be a monotonous or predictable match. The tempo was high, the ball depth was aggressive, and both players were hitting at the pace of the year's biggest contests. Every road this season led to these 2 names. And in Turin 2025, Sinner was the one dictating the rhythm of the game. He played with a tightness, precision, and consistency that made every point feel like part of a long-planned strategy. Carlos Alcaraz could not find the key. Although he had defeated Sinner at various points during the year, their 2025 rivalry was consistently intense, and this was their 6th encounter in Turin. Alcaraz couldn't establish an advantage. The first set was more a mental and character race than a speed contest. Sinner held his serve well. Alcaraz countered powerfully, and the balance was only broken in the tiebreak. Despite 2 interruptions, one from the crowd, one due to an Alcaraz muscle strain, Sinner handled every crucial point with astonishing composure. At set point, he unleashed a second serve as fast as a first serve to escape. That decision showed exactly why he was there, daring to change, daring to take risks, daring to upgrade himself at the necessary moment. The tiebreak concluded 7-4 for Sinner. The entire Inalpi arena erupted in cheers of "Jannik, Jannik." He repeatedly had to signal the crowd to quiet down for Alcaraz to serve. But the cheers only highlighted his standing. This was Sinner's house. And today, he owned it completely. In the second set, things took an unexpected turn. In the very first game, Sinner was broken the first time he lost a service game at the ATP Finals 2025. His streak of 45 consecutive service games won at the event was over. Yet, contrary to the crowd's worry, Sinner did not falter. He broke back in the very next game, leveling the match. That moment revealed the clear difference. Sinner does not let mistakes linger. He attacked Alcaraz's weak points, forcing his opponent to defend with deep backhands, accurate cross-court balls, and especially rapid-fire processing in long rallies. Around 4-4, Alcaraz began to lose emotional control. His coach, Juan Carlos Ferrero, reminded him to stay positive, and Samuel Lopez urged him to vent by shouting if needed. But those reminders could not reverse the momentum. Alcaraz started making errors on his signature shots, deep forehands from the baseline, and attacks straight to the corner. Sinner read his every trajectory, moved a step ahead, and compelled Alcaraz to hit one more shot, something the world #1 couldn't do often enough in this match. This was also when Sinner's newly honed weapons throughout the season appeared: precise lobs, a flexible wrist that allowed for faster backhand rotation, forehands into the corner that pushed Alcaraz deep, and notably, a confident second serve. Interspersed were nearly flawless down-the-line backhands, fast enough that Alcaraz couldn't shift his weight in time. Every time Sinner scored with these shots, Turin exploded in cheers. At the decisive point of the second set, the two players engaged in a 24-shot rally. It was a moment that reflected the entire match, one side demonstrating patience and clear strategy, the other a struggle to find a way out but lacking sufficient precision. When the point ended, Sinner raised his hand to his ear, a familiar Alcaraz gesture, as if to say louder. The entire stadium responded. That was the point where everything effectively ended. The last two games unfolded with a tempo entirely favoring Sinner. He didn't need to take risks, only maintain stability and force Alcaraz to keep hitting in a state of anxiousness. When match point arrived, Alcaraz's final shot flew out, and Sinner immediately fell to the court amid the eruption of nearly 15,000 spectators. The 7-6, 7-5 victory after 2 hours and 15 minutes placed Sinner in the elite group of players who have successfully defended the ATP Finals title, a list that includes Nastase, Borg, Lendl, McEnroe, Sampras, Hewitt, Federer, Djokovic, and now Jannik Sinner. His tournament week was absolutely perfect. 5 wins, no sets lost, 41 aces over 8 aces per match. At 24, he became the youngest player to defend the ATP Finals title since Federer in 2004. Furthermore, Sinner is the first player in the 21st century to win the ATP Finals 2 years in a row without dropping a single set, a feat previously only achieved by Ivan Lendl in 1985 and 1986. More important than all these records, Sinner concluded the season with a confidence he had never possessed. After his stumble at the US Open 2 months earlier, he changed his hitting style, mindset, and match approach, and Turin was the place that proved all those decisions were spot on. The final concluded with the image of Sinner lying on the court, while the stands exploded in various emotions. And the 2026 season is even more anticipated because their rivalry will continue, tighter, fiercer. But in Turin 2025, Sinner was the clearest winner. When Sinner reached another level, watching Sinner play in 2025, it's easy to see he has achieved the full package type of player: serve, return, forehand, backhand, footwork, each area clearly upgraded compared to his own game 1 or 2 years ago. The serve has become a central weapon, not just an opener. Varied speed and placement allow him to frequently get ahead in each game, creating a sense of initiative from the very first contact. The first serve has enough power to force passive returns, while the second serve has evolved into controlled risk instead of safely tapping it in. He dares to push the speed close to a first serve, the sequence in the first set of the final, where he used a second serve close to the line to shift the dynamic, is a vivid example of this new technical mindset. Sinner's forehand was once considered less explosive than Alcaraz's, but 2020 tells a different story. He has reduced overly heavy swings, increasing the proportion of deep, penetrating balls, going straight into the body or to the corner with very high safety. Instead of trying to win the point immediately, he forces his opponent into errors through long rallies, then delivers the finisher at the right moment. The backhand is precisely the area that separates him from the rest of the new generation. His flat, skimming, low spin but extremely heavy backhand allows him to change direction cross-court or down the line with virtually no tell in his racket preparation. For attacking players like Alcaraz, facing an opponent who can maintain deep depth and change backhand direction so quickly creates immense pressure, forcing them into having to hit continuous extra shots. The biggest difference between the two lies in how they construct the match. Alcaraz relies heavily on high tempo, creative plays, and moments of brilliance. Sinner chooses the opposite path, reduce chaos, increase control. In the Turin clash, he read Alcaraz's attacking tendencies extremely well. The inside-out or inside-in forehands that were the Spanish player's trademark were constantly intercepted by Sinner's early movement and angled backhands. He used a very clear pattern press deep into Alcaraz's backhand, away to short ball, then transition to attack with the forehand, or suddenly change direction with a down-the-line backhand to keep his opponent off balance. The drop shot also appeared in the right dosage. Instead of being overused, he deployed it only when Alcaraz had retreated too far, or after a sequence of heavy balls to the baseline. The result, the opponent had to run forward while fatigued, pulled out of their familiar rhythm, increasing the error rate. One crucial detail, Sinner rarely got drawn into the hitting rhythm Alcaraz desired. Whenever his opponent pushed the rally speed too high, he was willing to step back, accept defending one or two extra balls, and then look for a counterattack opportunity. This patience helped him avoid the kind of match that turns into an adventurous shootout. Where Alcaraz often shines, he transformed the encounter into a test of precision, of the ability to maintain a standard point after point, something the explosive style struggles to sustain throughout an entire match. On a tactical level, Sinner is moving closer to the model once seen in Djokovic during his peak phase, reading the opponent's game, disrupting their favored pattern, and then imposing his own pattern onto the match. Modern men's tennis increasingly demands a player to be quick enough, powerful enough, and also intelligent enough to conserve energy and prolong their career. On this point, Sinner's style appears very timely. He moves smoothly, with minimal wasted steps. His footwork is compact. His upper body maintains good balance. So even playing at a slightly lower intensity than Alcaraz, he arrives at the contact point in a ready stance. This helps him maintain the quality of every shot throughout the match, minimizing shanks or being forced into slashing shots while off balance. His return game is also a key component. He rarely stands too deep like some defensive players, nor too close to the baseline in a risky manner. He chooses a middle position, close enough to pressure the second serve, far enough to have time to react to a high-speed first serve. Whenever the opponent's serve quality drops, Sinner immediately uses a heavy, deep return to gain the initiative from the second shot. This yields a significant effect on surfaces like the one in Turin, where rallies typically occur in the short to medium range. Whoever gains the advantage on the first two shots serve and the following shot virtually controls half the game. Sinner understands this, and the way he optimizes those two opening shots shows very clear calculation. If you only look at the technique, it's easy to overlook the biggest change in Sinner. In 25, he handles pressure with a big three mentality. This is the area that truly differentiates good players from those who genuinely dominate. In the past, whenever he went deep in a Grand Slam or Masters, Sinner often struggled at crucial moments, easily losing rhythm in tiebreaks or missing opportunities when leading. The failure at the US Open 2 months ago suggested he had hit a mental ceiling, but instead of dwelling on the mistake in a heavy manner, he chose to restructure his game, accept more risks on crucial points, raise the standard of his second serve, and focus on decisive actions rather than halfway measures. The results were clearly evident in Turin. Every time he faced a breakpoint, he handled it like a player who has been through many major finals, serving to an unpredictable location, choosing an aggressive option from the first shot, rather than waiting for an opponent's error. This mindset created a psychological weight on the other side of the net. Alcaraz knew that if he eased up even slightly, Sinner would immediately punish him. His calmness is also highly noteworthy throughout the tournament. Whether leading comfortably or being pressed by his opponent, he maintained a stable demeanor. He complained little, reacted minimally, dedicating all his energy to every point. Every time the umpire handled a controversial situation or the match was interrupted, He only needed a few seconds to regain focus, then immediately returned to his familiar playing pattern. This is precisely the kind of mentality that allowed the big three to remain at the top for so long, maintaining the same high standard match after match. Regardless of the context, Alcaraz possesses exceptional talent. Everyone can see that. But if you put the two of them on a scale after Turin 2025, the difference is evident in how they manage their careers. Alcaraz relies heavily on explosive elements, extremely heavy forehands, bold net rushes, and sudden changes of direction. When physically fit and inspired, he can sweep aside any opponent. However, a style too reliant on youthful intensity can lead to a season with very high peaks interspersed with inexplicable dips, at times defeating top players, then subsequently running out of steam against opponents who know how to extend rallies and break his rhythm. Sinner, meanwhile, has built a system. Every tournament, every match, every set is part of a common logic: maintain a stable foundation, choose the right moments to accelerate, and maximally limit inspiration-driven matches. This may not produce social media exploding highlights every week, but it yields something professional. Tennis always respects more a sustained sequence of results. The ability to maintain standards throughout the season, especially at major events. Spectators can debate who is more visually appealing, who is more entertaining. However, if the question is, at this moment, who is playing closest to the standard of dominance that the big three once established, the answer leans distinctly towards Sinner. Turin 2025 confirmed what the statistics, form, and on-court feeling had suggested for months. Alcaraz holds the #1 position in the rankings. But Sinner is the one playing the more complete, mature, and reliable tennis right now. The dominator under scrutiny. Jannik Sinner's dominance at Turin 2025 is undeniable. Yet, accompanying that peak is a series of doubts, discussions, and scrutinizing gazes that any player ascending to the status of dominator must confront. This is the flip side of the spotlight that spectators sometimes miss. The pressure on the winner comes not only from the opponent, but also from the external chatter surrounding the court. And with Sinner, two issues have been most frequently mentioned by the media and the tennis community: the past doping-related incident that led to his temporary suspension, and the less-than-perfect physical condition of Carlos Alcaraz in the final. These doubts are not significant enough to shatter his achievement, but they suffice to create a layer of pressure that every champion must overcome to truly prove their worth. Throughout the 2025 season, Sinner experienced a period of competitive suspension related to a doping investigation. This led a segment of the tennis community to question was his extraordinary form, especially in the latter half of the season, entirely due to dedicated training and natural improvement. The reality is that no conclusion was made against Sinner, and he returned to competition with full clearance. However, in an era where every athlete is intensely scrutinized, merely being subject to investigation is enough to become a topic of debate. These types of doubts are not based on clear evidence, but they exist, and more importantly, they create an invisible pressure that a young player like Sinner still has to learn how to confront. Notably, Sinner did not shy away. He chose to respond with his performance: an unprecedented indoor winning streak, 2 consecutive ATP Finals titles, and victories against top-ranked players. But in the media, whenever he reaches a new peak, the old question is revived: is this his true power, or is there something else at play? This is a situation many champions have gone through when you advance too fast, too strongly. A part of the world always struggles to believe the results. Sinner facing this, playing through that pressure, is a critical part of the image he is building: a player who must affirm himself twice, once on the court and once before public opinion. One of the details causing the ATP Finals 2025 final to be dissected is the physical condition of Carlos Alcaraz. The world #1 experienced a thigh muscle issue in set 1 requiring treatment, and his movement was visibly affected in several sequences. This led to the perception among some spectators that Sinner's victory did not fully reflect the true balance of power between them. This form of argument always arises when a great player loses while not in optimal physical shape. Alcaraz, with his style reliant on speed and high intensity, is even more susceptible to being undervalued when not at 100% fitness. But the question that must be asked in return is, did Sinner cause that condition? His highly controlled playing style, with deep hitting and constantly pushing his opponent to the corners of the court, forced Alcaraz to run more, rotate more, and change direction continuously, all of which placed significant physical stress on his thigh muscle. An in-match injury is not just an accident. Sometimes it is a direct consequence of the tempo Sinner imposed. Nevertheless, the truth remains that Alcaraz was not at his best, and it means Sinner's victory is always accompanied by the question, what if Alcaraz was 100% healthy? That is not a fair question, but it is the question the tennis world asks whenever the two top players meet and one is not fully fit. And Sinner must accept that his success in Turin is viewed within that context. What makes this chapter important is the reality after Turin. Sinner needs not only to prove he is stronger than Alcaraz on the court, but also to prove that his victory is valuable, legitimate, and not due to external factors. This is a type of pressure the big three continually face throughout their 2 decades of dominance. When you are at the peak, every victory is analyzed, split in two, compared, and questioned. Everyone wants to know if the win is true strength or just circumstance. And Sinner, despite being just 24, is stepping right into that pressure zone. In reality, the ATP Finals victory does not automatically erase all doubts, but the way he played the consistency, the technical upgrades, and the composure at crucial moments show he is not a player living off luck. External factors might influence a result, but they cannot create an entire season of sustained excellence. With the clear level of improvement he has demonstrated, people can have doubts about details, but the overall picture is hard to deny. Sinner is climbing to the top with a stable playing system, with the ability to manage every match. Through evolution, month after month, and by overcoming the skepticism every champion must face. The new challenge has just begun. After the dazzling night in Turin, once the court is cleared and the cheers have faded, all that remains is the question every great player must confront: how do you maintain that form for Sinner? The ATP Finals victory is not just a milestone. It is a reminder that he has entered the domain where the big three lived for 2 decades, where sustaining is more important than conquering. He has climbed to the highest point of the season, but keeping himself at that altitude is the real test. The first thing Sinner needs to maintain is the standard of play he built in 2025. His tennis does not rely on rare, explosive shots, but on a stable technical system, powerful and varied serving, deep backhands creating constant pressure, the ability to change ball direction without revealing his intention, and an economical yet effective footwork foundation. These are not forms dependent on day-to-day emotion. This is a skill set that must be preserved with absolute discipline. What Sinner must do is continue to set the same standard in every practice, every small match, just as he did throughout the latter part of 2025. But maintaining technique is not enough. What Sinner needs most is to sustain the playing tempo he possesses, something very few young players achieve. In his critical wins late in the year, he didn't play faster than his opponents. He played at his right speed, forcing the match to revolve around the rhythm he controlled. That is what creates a true champion, not chasing someone else's rhythm, but making your rhythm the framework that the entire match must adhere to. Maintaining this tempo throughout the new season is the big challenge, as it demands both physical and mental resilience. Another element Sinner must maintain is his composure in decisive moments. Since the US Open 2025, he has changed his handling of breakpoints and crucial games with a rare decisiveness, second serves like first serves, attacking straight to the center when the opponent anticipates an angle shot, and especially the ability to accept risk when necessary. This is the area where previous legends remarked, "A great player is greater than others at the biggest points." To retain his current status, Sinner must turn the courage shown in Turin into a year-long habit, not just a brilliant moment in the final. However, the hardest part of the journey is not what Sinner must repeat, but what he is forced to prepare for. Carlos Alcaraz will not allow him to hold that position easily. Alcaraz is the kind of opponent that every top player fears in a unique way. He doesn't play defensively, doesn't wait for errors, but is always ready to attack from every direction. After the loss in Turin, he will certainly enter the new year with the two strongest motivations a player can carry: the pain of defeat and the desire to prove he is second to no one. His less than perfect health in the final leaves a question mark hanging over that match, and that very fact will turn Alcaraz into an even more formidable challenge in the coming year. What Sinner must be wary of is Carlos's character. His failures often forge a more dangerous version of himself. Alcaraz doesn't hide his emotions or shy away from mistakes. He turns every loss into fuel, every moment of faltering into material for building new techniques and tactics. He is the type of opponent who never stops, and this makes their rivalry long-term, not confined to just a few tournaments. Sinner is well aware of this. He knows that to maintain consistency, he must continue to upgrade his playing style, avoiding becoming a predictable blueprint. When your main rival is the most explosive player in the world, just a little repetition or slow adaptation is enough to shift the entire season's trajectory. Maintaining physical stamina, improving his net play, and increasing tactical flexibility will be critical parts of his journey to defend his position. Furthermore, Sinner must preserve the calmness he has cultivated over the past 2 years, not reacting to an overly excited crowd, not letting media noise penetrate his mind, not getting drawn into off-court stories. He proved in Turin that when his mind is stable, his game becomes incredibly difficult to break down. Every season lasts over 10 months. And the psychological factor, the unseen element, is often what determines who remains standing at the end. In all of this, there is a simple truth. Sinner is forced to accept defending the throne is harder than winning it. He enters 2026 as the person in control of men's tennis. But across the net is always Alcaraz, who will be ready to take back everything that Turin cost him. The battle between them will not be decided by a single match, nor a specific title. It will be decided by how they maintain, adapt, and respond throughout the entire season. And that is what makes the road ahead for both of them not only fascinating, but also carries the feeling that we are witnessing the birth of a new era. An era Sinner wants to master, and one Alcaraz will not easily allow to happen. We are not responsible if you misunderstand or misapply this content. Please use your own judgment, verify, and receive selectively. Enjoyed this? Give us a like, comment, share, or subscribe. That's the fuel that keeps us telling more peak stories about top tennis stars.